And we have remarkable lineup of young researchers from the different institute who will present their work to make this conference as an exceptional learning and networking opportunity. Now, before we dive into the presentation, allow me to introduce our distinguished chairperson, Professor Mohammad Safir Mir. Professor Mohammad Safi Mir is head of transportation engineering and planning in department in the NIT Srinagar. He has more than 60 BTech projects, 100 MTech dissertation and 13 PhD and postdocs. He has over 130 research publications in reputed international journals and also chapters in many technical books. And professor has delivered an expert lectures on various aspects of transportation engineering and planning on all around the globe, including countries like USA, Canada, UK, Singapore, Vietnam, Sri Lanka, and Malaysia. So now for the participants, I would like to request all the participants that follow the presentation time strictly. Each participants will get 10 minutes for the presentation and 2 to 3 minutes for the question and answer. So now I would like to hand over this session to our chairperson, Professor Mir, to start the presentation and discussions. Thank you.
Good morning to everybody, all the participants, all the delegates. Welcome to this session. I have been given the opportunity to chair this session, which is to be conducted on a theme of very, very high importance, as all of us must be aware of. That this session is about vulnerable road users and inclusive mobility. So we have got 7 presentations in it, which are covering different aspects of the vulnerable road users and different issues concerned with those. When we talk about the inclusive mobility, the vulnerable road users are the major part of that inclusivity, because if you talk about the motorized two-wheelers, if you talk about the bicyclists, if you talk about the pedestrians, more than 65% of the deaths, fatalities that are happening in our country are because of these only. So here we know we have the VRUs have the direct impact of whatever catastrophe happens on our roads. And as far as the planning goes, in most of the parts of the country, we see that to a very large extent, the VRU part of the transportation system, or when we are talking about improving the mobility, has been to some extent ignored or has not been given that level of importance as of now. In 2011, I was in University of Calgary, and that time, the 2 years that the Calgary city, the urban policy, the first 2 years for them during that period, 2010-12, was only on VRUs, especially the non-motorized transport, bicycles and pedestrians. So that was the thrust area, thrust 2-year plan that 2010-2020 that they had planned for those 2 years to give most importance and all the attention to the non-motorized transport there. But of course, we cannot compare our conditions with those, absolutely. And they are much ahead of us in terms of accessibility also, and in providing a very high level of mobility. But then when we talk about the inclusive mobility, when we are improving and providing the mobility, we have to take into consideration simultaneously that part of our transportation system which is contributing more than 65% of the fatalities. only the motorized two-wheelers are contributing around more than 43% of the fatalities, more than 42%. Around 18% are of the pedestrians. And then if you are taking the bicyclists, but because bicyclists are very less, the proportion of bicyclists are very less in most of the cities, and the reasons are many, including not having the proper infrastructure for the bicyclists. So if we combine all the three, it's amounting to more than 65%. So if when we are talking about the mobility, providing, improving the mobility, enhancing our mobility in our urban centers, in our urban systems, we have to take the vulnerable road users also into consideration. And as I said, the main three parts of these would be pedestrians, would be the motorized two wheelers, would be bicyclists. So if we are taking these three aspects or these three modes of the transport system also inclusive in our whole uh, planning part of improving our mobility, then we are addressing the situation in a very inclusive way. I hope we have the jury members here. So having said that, so it stresses upon the importance of this session. So there are different talks in this session on various aspects of VRUs. I would do we have Mr. Karthika here? Okay. So I would invite Miss Karthika P. Sobhana to come to the dais and present her present her work on modeling and natural pause and go walking behavior of pedestrians in bidirectional flow. So, Miss Karthika, please, you can start. So, you already have been told by Mr. Yogi about the timing. So, we have 10 minutes for the presentation, and then 5 minutes will be an interaction with the participants. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning to one and all. I'm Karthika. I'm a PhD student at the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. So today I'll be discussing on my paper, which is modeling the natural pause and go walking behavior of pedestrians in bidirectional flow. This is the outline of my presentation. So I'll briefly try to discuss the motivation of this work, which is modeling walking behavior. Go to the data that we have used, the methods, then the results of the modeling and the inferences and conclusions. Okay, so when you look at the walking behavior of pedestrians, so it's important to consider the movement dynamics of pedestrians because it has wide applications in urban planning, traffic operations, and even crowd management. So in this study, we are looking at only the crowd management aspect. So how the pedestrians walk in a crowd is what you're studying here. Though there are several studies which model the behavior of people or pedestrians in a crowd, the natural walk dynamics of stopping motion in a crowd is not being considered explicitly. And the reason is that walking is usually treated as a continuous process by the pedestrian models or simulation models. However, when people are walking, they are actually aware of some of the activities that happen around them. They look at their environment, and most often they also have their group members. So this inadvertently translates this continuous motion into an intermittent walking behavior. So here we are modeling this using a bi-level pedestrian modeling framework. We have tested alternate model specifications and we have developed the model for both the choice of stopping and direction choice, considering the panel effect of the data. So when you talk about what is of interest to the participants in a crowd, they are mostly interested in having a safe and comfortable journey, or to have the information on activities, timings, and their locations, and access to basic facilities. So as per literature, the different choices that people make while walking, they are classified into 3 levels. Strategic level, where the choice is regarding the destination or the kind of activity they want to do. At the tactical level, you are more interested in the order of activities given that the destination is already fixed, or the route choices. And given that the strategic and tactical level decisions are fixed, what are the operational decisions come in the third level, where we try to model the walking speeds and directions mostly. Mostly what we have observed is that there's inconsistency in the decision making mechanism with respect to the pedestrian walking behavior, and people tend to ignore this non-navigational and personally motivated behaviors. Most often the pedestrian interactions are treated as binary, and there's lack of incorporating the heterogeneity of walking behavior, that is individual characteristics and their perceptions while walking. And there's also a challenge in collecting field data regarding the pedestrian walking behavior, and calibrating it using this real field data is also lacking. So for this study, we have used data collected from Ujjain city during the Mahashivratri festival in 2017. This is the location that we have used. You can see the variation of pedestrian density over time. If you look at some of the variables that we have extracted, in addition to the trajectory of the people, we also labeled additional information like the group member information. We used visual cues to identify social groups in the video. Then other personal characteristics like their gender, whether they're carrying luggage, and other information to include in our modeling framework. So coming to the proposed modeling framework, this is inspired by the works of Antonini and Robin et al. So the decision-making behavior, we have split it into two components. Basically, you have a directional component and a movement component. In the directional component itself, as I mentioned earlier, since we are trying to model the pause and go behavior, there are two levels in this. So the upper level, you're trying to model whether a pedestrian is going to pause or to move forward. And in the second level, given that the pedestrian is decided to move, which direction would he or she be liking, wanting to move to, is given in the second level. Once the direction is known, then the movement model is a set of heuristics that we have developed to position the pedestrian. So regarding the direction choice, considering the visual field that is available to a pedestrian, we have partitioned the space into sectors with wider sectors on the sides and smaller sectors on the center. We are testing two hypotheses here. One is that the people generally might not prefer to deviate significantly from their straight direction of motion. And the second being that the group membership will play a significant role in both the decision to pause and the direction choices. To model both the short range and long range interactions, we consider two zones, zone of immediate influence and the zone of perceived influence. So as I mentioned, since at the first level you have a binary choice of whether a pedestrian will pause or go, we model it using a simple binary logic model, where we pause as the systematic utility associated with the decision to pause, or the attractiveness of that particular decision or choice. In the next level, given that he has decided to go, we have multiple options to choose from regarding the direction choice. So we use a MNL at the second level to model the direction choice, conditional on the fact that the person is has decided to move. We write the likelihood expressions for the observed choice and maximize this expression to estimate the parameters of the model. So coming to the model results. So as you can see, there's an inherent tendency of a pedestrian is to walk rather than pause. We also see that when people are walking towards an attraction point, they are less likely to pause. If you look at the direction choice model, the inherent preference is for the central sectors rather than the extreme sectors. And when the number of people in the sector increases, there is a lesser utility in moving to that sector, and that is not chosen. Now, if we look at the effect of groups, so we tried different model specifications considering different variables like the effect of groups, collision avoidance behavior, density-based effects, and so on. So when you test for groups, what we see is that the group size of individual, we tested at both levels. We see that it's not actually significant at 95% confidence level, but it seems to be more significant in the decision to pause rather than the choice of a direction. So you can see the goodness of fit measures also here, and the predicted and the observed choices. So summarizing my work, So we propose a pedestrian walking behavior model that can account for a more naturalistic behavior of people. It's important because the simulation models have a behavioral model in the background, and as long as your behavioral model is realistic, it will result in a better simulations, and can use this simulations to test out what if scenarios during pre-event planning of crowd management. And the performance of the model on the calibrated data shows that the model can predict the center and the right sector choices better than the left sector for the calibrated data that we have. We also tested the applicability of the proposed model by doing model validation. I've not presented the results here, but the model performs reasonably well. Further, we can actually try influencing the effect of group behavior on the decisions, and calibration of the model with a larger data set containing information of side attractions. Yeah, so this I conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kartika. So I'll throw the interaction into the audience. So please, if you have anything to any comment or any question to be asked to Ms. Kartika, please go ahead.
Hi, I think it's a great work that you're doing. I'm just curious, how do you apply in real time? If you're using this model, for example, you took example of Amila, Nasik, I think. Ujjain, sorry. How do you apply it downstream in the technology framework? And how do you deliver the benefits? So because let's take the example of Kumbh Mela. Crores of people are going to be there.
Yes.
At any given point in time, lakhs of people. What is the applicability in terms of its use in managing the crowd or the side attractions? Because I think one of the benefit I see is that you can direct crowd in a certain manner, predefined manner. Therefore, there is orderliness in the crowd management. That's my question.
Yeah, thank you, sir. During, I think the application of this model would be mostly in the pre-event planning stages. So prior to any such events, the administration makes efforts to plan out the event. And it's possible that this model is right now is not integrated into a simulation framework, but it's possible to integrate this into a simulation framework. And then you can use those simulations, you can run different scenarios to test what would be the output of the simulation model, see where issues are happening or not, and then check if it's actually helpful in managing the crowd. I think that's one possible application that I can think of. And I have not actually included the effect of side attractions to a detail in our model, because in our video data we are not able to find evidence of people actually moving to a side attraction. So we require having a larger data set where you can actually see people performing multiple activities at the study location, and then you can further calibrate the model and then use it for, I think, maybe for facility planning as well. Yeah. Yes.
Very interesting presentation.
Thank
Good
you.
slides, well spoken, articulated. We are taking a context of a religious event.
Yes.
How does this behavior change when you put them in a shopping area? Because there is a lot of, they are not guided by a certain destination. It's more of fuzzy, exploring shopping. Even shoppers are of two categories, obviously. There is somebody who knows the shop. So he's like a guided, navigated kind of a pedestrian. And somebody who's coming for the first time, he's exploring. It becomes very relevant in applications, in designing pedestrian walkability, infra in such conditions. What are your views on that?
So one of the future scopes of our work was testing out if this model can perform better on other situations as well, so other than mass religious gatherings. But as you said, familiarity of the surroundings is a very important point. The data that we had was only video data, so there was no way we could gauge if the participants had familiarity with the surroundings or not. So one option that we are thinking of is we can probably have a data collection but not just video data. You can also have some questionnaire kind of data collection, and then you can combine these two data sources and arrive at models which can capture this effect as well. So yeah, I hope you answered the question.
Yeah, since you have used the choice modeling,
Yes.
so it is basically the choice of those people in that particular scenario. So this probably will be more suited to those types of gatherings, which are of that nature, of which you have used the data for modeling. Shouldn't it be?
I think the model results would be applicable for that kind of setting, but it's
Yeah.
possible to use a framework, and the models can be calibrated on other data sets and used.
So any other person, please? Yes, please.
Hi, good morning.
Yes.
I'm looking at pause and go from a different scenario perspective. Okay, not basically a religious gathering or any crowded shopping center. Like take for example, any skywalk or a footbridge connecting a railway station or a bus station like that. Okay, what are the reasons a person could pause and go? One is that he could be new to the place, so he's trying to find out how to find his way through the uh, foot over bridge, or where he has to get down. That could be one. Or probably to catch his breath. Okay, so you climb a flight of stairs, you want to catch your breath, you have children along with you, probably they would like to so these are various situations wherein you have to pause and go.
Yes.
Now, have you, or are you also thinking, now your study is related to a different scenario?
Yes.
Are you also planning to do something about this? Because this also impedes flow.
Yes.
Suppose in a crowded where a lot of people are moving, and you have people who are stopping for various reasons.
Yes.
So it impedes the movement of pedestrians. So are you also planning to do some study on that?
It's possible to extend this. Thank you for the suggestion, actually. We had not thought of extending this to a pedestrian facility, like you said, like skywalk. Railway stations was something that we actually thought of, public transit facilities where you have similar kind of situations. But of course, each of these locations have their own characteristics which we need to. So I think you cannot directly transfer these models to all the situations, but you'll have to fine tune it to what you want to that model to do, and then proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. So any other question or query? Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Kartika. Thank you for an excellent presentation.
Thank you for listening to me.
So let's give a big hand. Now I would request Mr. Prajwal to please come on the dais and share his work with us. So Mr. Prajwal will be speaking on the theme "A Study on Pedestrian Behavior in Different Road Traffic Facilities in Indian Traffic Scenario." Please go ahead, Mr. Prajwal.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone. My name is Prajwal, and my study is related to pedestrian behavior and different road traffic facilities in Indian traffic scenario. So we will go with the flow to the introduction to topic, objectives of the study, then estimation and analysis of speed and delay of pedestrian, then model development of pedestrian development of speed prediction model, then validation, conclusion, and limitations. So you can see on the screen the crash percentage at intersection and mid block section, and the contribution of pedestrian in that. So as we did the literature study, we found that there is need to study pedestrian speed and behavior of pedestrian at signalized intersection and crosswalk. So from the gaps which we have identified, we determine the objectives we determine are like that: to study the behavior of pedestrian in mid-block sections and intersection in mixed traffic scenarios, to estimate the speed and delay of pedestrian in different road traffic conditions, and to develop the speed prediction model for pedestrian. So the site selection, for the site, we have identified the signalized intersection from the Nagpur city, and the mid-block sections from Chandigarh and Delhi. Data collection was done by videography method during the morning peak hour. Below are the geometric details of the signalized intersection and mid-block sections. For the extraction of data from video, Kinovia software was used, and the basic formulas which I have mentioned in the presentation are used. For analyzing the variation in speed and yield of pedestrian, the age of pedestrian is grouped into four categories, and also according to their movement, whether they are traveling alone or in a group. Now here you can see the graph for speed and speed of pedestrian with respect to various parameters which we have considered. Pedestrian from the graph we can see that pedestrian moving individually show higher speed than those moving in group. Also, the highest speed observed it is 1.34 meter per second when males crossing individually, and lowest speed observed is 1.002 when females were crossing in group. Uh, Here is the graph for mid-block section. Here speed decreases with an increase in their age, and the highest speed observed was 1.33 meter per second when males cross alone, and the lowest is the 0.88 meter per second when males move in a group. This is the graph for delay. Positive value here indicates that there is a delay, and while the negative value shows that how early the pedestrian reaches to his destination. Many such observations are and comparison are made from the graphs. Now the development of pedestrian speed prediction model. So this section of studies focus on hypothesizing the relationship between different parameters and identifying the significance association between them. Statistical tests were conducted to determine the relationship between different factors and speed of pedestrian. The factors were selected based on preliminary explanatory data analysis, normality test, hypothesis test, and ANCOVA test of independent variable. So the table shows the detail of the attributes and other parameter along with their respective category and the code assigned to the individual to conduct the analysis in SBSS. This table shows the Pearson correlation for signalized intersection. It is observed that speed of pedestrian has a significant correlation with all the independent variable, but on the contrary, for the mid-block section, independent variable road width does not have a significant correlation with the speed of pedestrian. Moreover, ANCOVA test results also indicate the same outcome. So with all these tests, the variables for model development was done. With the help of IBM SPSS Statistics 20, the model equation for speed prediction model and signalized intersection as well as for mid-block section is developed like this. Here is a summary of regression analysis conducted for developing proposed model. For the model validation, 90% of the extracted data was used, while the remaining 10% was used for the validation. MAP was used to validate the speed prediction model. Validation of proposed model also indicate good and highly accurate prediction in pedestrian speed estimation. Here is the presentation of field observed and model predicted speed of pedestrian. So the general conclusion which can be made are that the study analyzed pedestrian behavior at signalized intersection and mid-block section in mixed traffic setting. And also linear regression models were developed for same to uh, to predict the pedestrian speed. Following will be the are the limitations. Data is collected from the three cities. Zonal characteristics were not considered in the study while the site selection, and the delay estimation models are not included in scope. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prajwal. Any questions or any comments from the participants? Yes, please.
Hi, Prajul. Couple of observations. One is, I think the age distribution
Yes.
greater than 50 should be further bifurcated, because
Uh,
beyond 60, 65, the mobility, personal mobility, is something which probably doesn't correlate with 50, right? Second, uh, people with different ability. I think that's another
yes,
one.
that is not included.
And I could not very clearly see the correlation of a CDD
Hmm.
with the person crossing either the intersection or mid block, because if the research is about how are these things influencing, so that correlation has to come very clearly, whether the countdown, how is countdown timer really affecting
Yes, if
the
there.
behavior of a person who's crossing the road. uh, so just an example, maybe that'll help you to really further work on this. In Singapore, you have got RFID cards that are used by old people or differently able people to tap on the junctions signals. So therefore the timer will automatically change depending on the need for the person to cross the junction.
Yes.
So I think you may want to factor those kind of things also, to look at how these technologies affect behavior of people and vice versa.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other query or a comment? Mr. Prajwal, your focus is on both intersection. You are talking about the crossing behaviors, isn't it?
And also at mid block section also.
Yeah, crossing behaviors at intersection and mid block crossings. Nowadays, people are using a lot of cell phones, etc.
Yes.
Also, so did you take that behavior into consideration?
No, sir. It can be the limitation.
Okay. So, anybody wants to say something? No. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Prajwal. A big hand for him. I request now Mr. Animesh to please come to the dais and give his presentation. He is speaking on understanding the utilization patterns of pedestrian crossing facilities, evidence from Bhopal City.
Good morning, all in one. My name is Anmesh and I am going to give a presentation over the topic understanding the utilization patterns of pedestrian crossing facilities, evidence from Bhopal city. As we as we all are aware that pedestrians are among the most of the vulnerable road users, but still their fatality rate is high. According to a report of 2013 of World Health Organization, pedestrian constitutes 22% of the global road deaths. In India, if we talk about according to statistics of India, in 2021, the pedestrian constituted for the 25% of overall road accident fatalities. Uh, the government is investing a huge amount of money for the safer crossing of the pedestrians by providing various pedestrian crossing facilities such as foot overbridge, underpasses, and zebra crosses and marked crosswalk. But still, these facilities remain underutilized. So, in this study, we have focused on the various pedestrian crossing facilities from the Bhopal city In that, we have considered 2 footover bridge and 3 crosswalks. In Bhopal, there are 3 footover bridges, but out of those, only 2 were operational and 1 was unoperational due to less pedestrian activities. And that reason, the selection of crosswalks was depend on the high pedestrian volume and high traffic volume. These are these images of the selected study area. To get the data of the pedestrians, the questionnaire was designed into 3 categories like personal characteristics, walk trip characteristics, and the pedestrian perceptions. The data was collected in the month of December and January in the evening peak hour in the year 2023. Face-to-face survey was conducted and simple random sampling was done. Now this shows the socio-demographic characteristics of the crosswalk respondent in that the maximum number of the respondents belongs to the age group of 15 to 29 years. The largest portion of the male has the largest portion, and the educational qualification of the respondents were up to the graduation level. In that, the most of the respondents has reported that they are using the crosswalk facilities on the daily basis. Now let's shift our focus to the sociodynamic characteristics of the footover bridge. In that, the maximum number of respondents belongs to the age group of 15 to 44 years. In that, the largest portion has the females, the education qualification up to the below intermediate level. They were using the respondents who were interviewed near the footover bridge were using these facilities to use the intermediate transport system, public transport system. Most of them are not using those facilities, footover bridge facilities. To get the better understanding, the pedestrian perceptions were considered. In that, the questions was asked in such a way that if your facility would have the following facilities, so will you use these facilities or not? In like the less crossing length, presence of lift oblique escalator, less number of vehicles plying on the road, large gap between vehicles, presence of fellow pedestrians, presence of refugee island or median, and no criminal activities, proper lighting, direct approach to the crossing facility, and the presence of proper sidewalk. In that, most of the respondents had reported that they will use the following facilities, crossing facilities, if their facility will have these such factors. Further, these factors were classified into 3 categories: safety, security, mobility, and infrastructure. Under safety, the less number of heavy vehicles, large gap between vehicles, and less crossing length were considered. In security, no criminal activities, proper lighting, and presence of fellow pedestrian were considered. And in mobility and infrastructure, direct approach to the crossing facility and presence of proper sidewalks were considered. Now, as we have seen, the crosswalks, the people are using crosswalks, but the pedestrian footover bridge remains underutilized. So we can conduct some public awareness campaigns to guide them or to inform them about the benefits of the safety and promote the benefits of using zebra crossing and footover bridge for safety and convenience, ensuring ramps, elevators, and other accessible features are in place to need the cater all pedestrians. Here some site specific recommendations are also given. At footover bridge, the pedestrian were of the opinion that the location of footover bridge was far from the ISBT exit gate, interstate bus terminal exit gate, so providing some connectivity like proper sidewalk or stairs from the ISBT exit gate to footover bridge may improve the chances of utilization in the same by pedestrian. At Jyoti Talkies, the footover bridge is constructed near the intersection, so most of the respondents were using the zebra crossing instead of footover bridge. And at Mata Mandir and Nehru Nagar, the crosswalks were faded. So by providing properly marked crosswalk can enhance the feeling of safety among pedestrians and enable them to use the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Animesh. Do we have a query or a comment or a question? Yes, please.
Hi, nice presentation. But don't you think this is basically a planning lacuna or planning deficiency? Normally, when we plan any foot-over bridge or a pedestrian facility, we need to take into account all these factors which you have mentioned, in your survey, whatever observations you have got. These are the factors which have to be considered during the planning stage. Now
Yes,
you have
sir.
done a post-mortem, okay? That, okay, fine, this is the foot-over bridge. We could have, made it more pedestrian friendly by, having these factors also in place, location-wise
Yes.
and various other things. So my only this thing would be that, these things have to be done prior to the implementation. The planning has to be appropriate. So this is a classic example of a planning deficiency or a planning lacuna or a shortfall. Do you agree or not?
Yes, sir, I agree in that condition.
So a lot of money has been spent. It's a
Yes, sir.
public facility, but being underutilized.
Yes,
So this is
lack of
not
planning.
something which we should do in future. We
Yes,
should learn from this.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else? Mr. Animesh, can you just list 3 major factors, that will enhance the utilization of the footwear bridge and that will enhance the utilization of the ad grade crossing, mid block crossing?
Sir, in case of Bhopal city or in general?
Okay, in light of Bhopal city, you can say, which could be general as well.
Sir, in Bhopal city, as I have told you earlier, there are 3 foot-over bridges. Out of those, only 2 were operational, and in those 2, the lifts were not operational. Like the lift were there, but they were not working. So by uh, if the lift would be on working condition, so every type of person would be able to access the foot-over bridge. And sir, as the Jyoti Talkies foot-over bridge, which is constructed near intersection, so people are using the crosswalk instead of the foot-over bridge. And the ISPT, the foot-over bridge is constructed far from the ISPT exit gate where people are leaving. So by providing some other type of connectivity or the exit gate, some will be improved these facilities using foot-over bridge.
Your work was basically on the lift facilitated footwear bridges, not on the step,
So both
having
were there.
flights.
So both were there. Stairs were also there and lift were also there.
Okay. So if we are talking about the flight facilitated footwear bridges,
No, sir, ramps were not there. Only stairs and lifts were there.
yeah, I'm talking about where the stairs were there. So, what factors did you identify which would affect the utilization?
So walking distance, like how much they are walking to cross the road through foot-over bridge, so that will also affect. And so
Okay,
in the
and
night time,
age-wise, did you find any disparity in the utilization?
yes, sir. Only, sir, as no one was utilizing those facilities occasionally or like daily basis. They were just occasionally, if they are roaming around here and there, they are using this facility. Otherwise, those facility, though no one was using those facilities, sir. The respondents who were interviewed near these facilities only.
So I just wanted to just extract what is the takeaway from your work. So in terms of at least identification of the factors that would improve the utilization of the footwear bridge or that could improve the utilization of the at grade crossings.
Sir, in case of foot-over bridge, the proper lighting and the presence of people, like there are different type of activities are going on that foot-over bridge, so people are afraid of using those facilities. So police patrolling and proper security would improve its usage in the daytime and nighttime also, sir. And at grade crosswalks, sir, there the markings were not there. So by providing proper marking, by providing proper signage boards, like the vehicle speed restraints should be there. So in that way, it would improve the at grade crossings, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Nimish. So a big hand for him. I would now request Mr. Mehrab Nazir to come to the dais and give his presentation, which is on road environment factors affecting fatal crashes of vulnerable road users, a case control study. Please go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm Maharab Nazir. Today we'll be discussing about impact of road infrastructure on vulnerable road user safety, a case control study. So as most of us are familiar with these figures, I'll be just going through these. We all know that transportation is the backbone of any economy. Talking about the developing countries, it contributes up to 12% of the GDP, and in the developing countries, it contributes up to 8% of the GDP. Talking about the India, so as we all know that we are all set to cross 1.8 lakh kilometers of highways by the year 2025, and we have already increased the budget from 64900 to 1.99 lakh crores in 2022. So what I want to say here is that by the year 2025, we'll be seeing lots of roads around us. But the main thing is that there are negative health impacts associated with the road transportation. Like the presentations before me had presented. So the major negative health impacts are the crashes, air pollution, and noise pollution. Our study will be focused towards the crashes only. So let's take a look at how big the problem is. So talking globally, road traffic crashes are causing 1.35 million deaths all over the world, and 50 million people are getting injured, which was the figure of 2019. Road traffic crashes are the eighth leading cause of death for all the ages, and it is the number one cause of the death for the young adults of age in between 5 to 29. Talking about in our context for the low and middle income countries, the road traffic crashes death rate from the road traffic crashes is 3 times in the LMICs than in high income countries. And talking about the India, so we are the biggest LMICs in the Asia. So we have got only 1% of the world's vehicles, and we contribute to 11% of the global deaths, which is highest in the world. Which means that this problem is 3 times bigger than us than the other high-income countries. And while talking about the investments in the roads or any infrastructure, we should keep in mind the negative health impacts of the road transport. Now let's take a look at the distribution which based on the road user classifications. So we can see here that pedestrians, motorized two-wheelers, and bicycles, they contribute more than 50% of these road traffic crashes. And this figure was validated by IIT Delhi because there are some ambiguities in the MOR data and other things. So in order to validate that thing, the TRIP Center at IIT Delhi had validated these figures, and more or less the vulnerable road user contribution is more than 50%. So now let's understand who are the vulnerable road users. So WHO has defined these vulnerable road users in the year 2007, and then again in the year 2017 they provided the definition that VRUs are the bicyclists, pedestrians, and motorized two-wheelers because their weight is less and their external protective measure comparative to the cars, trucks, that's comparatively less. So they are more vulnerable to get involved in the fatal crashes. That's the result. We are seeing that more than 50% of the deaths are from the vulnerable road users. So to address these issues, we had done an extensive literature review, and we have analyzed that majority of the studies were focused in the high-income countries. Besides that, we have focused that the influence of the road infrastructure over the VRU crashes was not analyzed up to that much extent. So what we did is we found that in the literature that in LMICs the VRU crashes, the influence on the VRU crashes because of the infrastructure was not understood up to that much detail, and most importantly, overall this factor was not taken into consideration. So in order to address those things, we have selected Vadodara city as our study area because we got the data for that city, and because of the professors we got this because the professor is working there with the help of which we got this data. So we have focused on 608 road links in the Vadodara city, which consists of 415 kilometers of the road. Out of those 608 road links, we have selected 62 diverse mid-block sections on which the volume count was done. Along with that, the other road geometrics were also collected, which we'll be discussing in the coming slides. So the objectives of our study were to analyze the percentage of the VRUs in the Vadodara for the 5 years period of the for the 5 years period for which we got the crash data. Number next was to investigate the influence of various road infrastructure elements on the fatal crashes involving VRUs. And at last, we suggested certain policy implications based on the influence of the factors on the fatal VRU crashes. So this was the overall methodology of our study. After identifying the study area, which was Vadodara, we collected the crash data, we had the volume count, we had the land use data, we had the road geometrics. Finally, after extracting this data, we have done basic sort of modeling using logistic regression and a case control study using logistic regression. And based on the results, we suggested certain policy implications. So talking about the crash data collection, this in itself is a problem in low and middle income countries because we don't have a well established database from where we can extract the crash data. So for the crash data, we relied on the FIRs. We have got the FIRs from 2017 to 2021. And from the FIRs, we collected this much information about the incident, about the vehicle, and about the victim characteristics. Moving further, for the volume data, we have used the manual methods and the videographic methods at the 62 sites out of those 608. We have sort of condensed those 608 locations to 62 locations based on the similar characteristics, road width, number of lanes, presence of median, and we got 62 unique locations over which we collected the volume data. Now, talking about the modeling, we have used logistic regression. Logistic regression is a special type of the statistical modeling which is used when the outcome variable is binary. So in our analysis, the outcome variable was the VRU fatal crashes. So for the outcome variable to be the case, it should be the mid block with at least one VRU crash. For it to be the control, it is the mid block without any VRU crash. Now moving further, these were the modeling results on which I want to spend few minutes. We can see here that with the increase in the volume, the top row in the red highlighted, with the increase in the volume, the pedestrian crashes were increasing. So let me go through this table. So what we did is we have run sort of four type of models. We first run the fully adjusted model, that is we regressed the VRU crashes with all the variables, and then we regressed the VRU crashes with the individual variables, and we did it separately for pedestrians and motorized two-wheelers. Our main observation was that with the increase in the volume, the pedestrian crashes were increasing. That is, if at a mid-block the volume is increasing, the likelihood or the odds of a pedestrian to get involved in the crash increases. Another important observation which we found is that about the number of lanes. With the increase in the number of the lanes, the pedestrian crashes increase. Pedestrian crashes as well as motorized two-wheeler crashes increase. So why I am focusing on this is whenever we are suggesting any policy, we focus on increasing the number of lanes so that our all problems will be sorted. But besides it solves the problem of congestion, we are compromising the safety of vulnerable road users. We are making them more vulnerable. Because with the increase in the number of lanes, the relative speed of all the vehicles will get increased, as a result of which pedestrians and motorized two-wheelers are facing more crashes. Another observation which we found is that with the increase in the width of median, the motorized two-wheeler crashes, it's having a negative influence, which means that if we are having more wide medians on our roads, motorized two-wheelers are less likely to get involved in any crash, which is quite obvious because as per the IRC guidelines, we should have at least 3 meters of median at a place. Actually, it is 5, and in no case it should be 3, and on bridges it is up to 2 meters. But unfortunately, we don't follow these guidelines here properly. Now, moving to, based on these results, we have suggested certain policies. So for the pedestrian crossings should be provided in such a way that pedestrians need to walk as less as possible, and the volume of the incoming traffic should be also low. The best way to achieve this can be a well-designed pedestrian underpass or overpass. Like Mir sir was already discussing with the sorry, I don't remember his name. So when he asked him that what should we do to make these pedestrian underpasses or overpasses to be more efficient. So one of the suggestions is that we should design them in such a way that pedestrians need to walk less. But unfortunately, these things are not that much simple to achieve directly, because when we talk about these pedestrian underpasses or overpasses, these are provided at those locations where we have already space constraints. So we provide 2-3 flights to those pedestrian overbridges. So that becomes one of the major reasons that pedestrians are not using those. For example, if I'm a pedestrian, I need to cross the road. I first think that now I have to first get on the overhead bridge, then cross. So we should focus on the design properly. One of my suggestions is that we can use escalators along with the lifts so that pedestrians will be more attracted towards those footway bridges. Another important suggestion which we had is that for the crosswalks, which we usually have the zebra crossings, we can provide the raised crosswalks so that they will act as a speed breaker as well as they can be used for by pedestrians to cross the road. So the third policy implication which we suggested will be width of the median should be provided close to the maximum allowable value where possible to ensure to reduce the glare as well as to segregate the traffic properly. So the limitations of our study were that since when I introduced the vulnerable road users, I talked about three classes of road users: pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorized two-wheelers. But unfortunately, we were not able to regress the bicycle crashes because of the limitations of the data. So we suggest that in future, all the locations of the road, like we can take mid blocks, we can take intersections, we can take even sometimes footway bridges also into this analysis to analyze the vulnerability of these road users. And apart from the other geometric factors which we have took into consideration, we can also consider the road network structure and other factors also to understand properly the safety of the vulnerable road users in the LMIC settings. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Merab, for a nice presentation. So if there are any comments, any questions or suggestions, please.
Nice presentation. Actually, this is very important in many of our cities, because as you rightly pointed out, the the accidents pertaining to the VRUs is increasing and it's very tragic. Did you consider the presence of the law enforcement agencies, policemen at any intersections on the accidents pertaining to the VRUs? Because I feel that wherever there is a police presence, okay, accidents pertaining to the VRUs, there is a definite going to be a definite influence. So that is one. The other is that, see, basically accidents pertaining to the VRUs, okay, whether it be the pedestrians or the bicyclists or the two-wheelers, okay, sometimes it is because of the mistake or fault, you can say, of the pedestrians when they get involved into accidents. Sometimes it could be the mistake of the other, say, the other vehicle users or the two-wheelers, in spite of, they using the zebra crossing and, crossing the road when the pedestrian green is on, still they could meet with accidents. So basically, these are the classifications, that whether it is due to the fault of the pedestrian or it is due to the fault of the other vehicle users. So this is a distinction, this you need to distinguish. The other is that, I don't know, this is just a thought which came to my mind. You have the road safety weeks or road safety fortnights. What are, accidents, what is the percentage of accidents taking place during that fortnight or during that period vis-a-vis, prior to that or after that? This sort of data also would be very important in, bringing to a conclusion that enforcement does significantly impact the accidents pertaining to VRUs. Thank you.
Thank you. Just give me a second. So, your first question was there any enforcement, like police personnel present at those locations or not? Actually, we have not taken that thing into consideration because we got the data from the FIRs. You are right. If there is a police person present at a location, there are less chances of pedestrians to break the rules. But since nowadays we are talking about the zero deaths, what we call that ground zero. Sorry, I don't remember that. We are focusing on zero deaths on roads, like Sweden nowadays is doing that. So that thing is based on the safe system approach, where we say that if a person makes mistake on road, he or she must not lose his life. So When we say that pedestrians have broke the rule, that for example, I'm a pedestrian, I'm on the road, I shouldn't be on the road, then where should the pedestrian go? So that's the main thing. Like you said, that this is the planning lacuna. Whenever we plan anything, we plan that only for cars. We never take into consideration about pedestrians. So a pedestrian can ask also that why should I use the football bridge? Why shouldn't I use the road? So that's the basic principle behind the safe system approach, towards which India is taking baby steps on that. So what I mean to say here is that whenever we plan anything, the first priority should be pedestrians, because initially the roads were designed only for pedestrians. Then after that, cars and all those things come into play. Another question which you said, that can you please repeat your second question?
The impact of the road safety fortnight.
Yes. So what we call these things as, we should organize these gatherings like this conference or other things, so that people will get aware about these things in the road safety weeks, which you do usually in the first week of the November. So researchers have told that there is no improvement of these public gatherings on the actual ground. Now talking about whether what will be the number of accidents, like we can say frequency of the crashes in that week compared to the other week, it will obviously be low, because during that week only the traffic policemen are that much vigilant about the, it's like we care about the deaths of the road traffic crashes during only that week. After that, sab bhul jao.
Or is it that police is involved with conducting the program and then
The reason it's a very important point. Why? Because it shows that proper law enforcement is very much required, especially at major intersections where there's a lot of pedestrian movements. So this is something which has to be brought out in the research.
So actually, what I feel is that these two things get side by side. First, we should have the safe infrastructure, then we can implement safety. Our infrastructure is not that much safe. If we are going to implement 100% of these traffic policemen on roads, still we won't be able to reduce crashes, because our system is not designed to reduce crashes. I will tell you why. So when we look at this this pie chart, see in the number of car percentages here, 7%. So can you? So in that pie chart, the cars are contributing only 7% to the crashes. And whenever we design any policy, we take into consideration cars only. So if those policies are implemented 100%, we will only be able to reduce crashes by only 7%. The rest of these 52%, which are the vulnerable road users, it is going to be there unless and until we won't be more focused and we give them more importance. So that's the main reason, I guess, that in LMICs these crashes are not getting reduced, because our priorities are different. We are focusing on cars, we are focusing on these fancy flyovers, and ultimately we result killing more and more pedestrians. Like we have seen in Delhi, after any flyover, before and after, we are usually comparing these data in IIT Delhi. We see that the number of crashes has increased that too exponentially after those flyovers. Because with the increase in speed, any increase in speed is dangerous to these vulnerable road users.
Okay. Can I just once more?
Yes, please.
Do you have you examined the occurrence of or the presence of blind spots at various locations and try to identify and the cause of blind spots in accidents, the correlation between?
We have actually focused on mid blocks here. Mid blocks are usually the straight sections. There are less chances of the blind spots, but yes, in the future studies we can also incorporate that variable also. That can also be very much helpful, and it can explain the variability up to a good extent. Any other questions?
Thank you, Mehrab. Just one comment, because there are some interesting, I think, the outcomes of your study, which I perceive. Few of them are like, you said that if it's a mixed type of setting, mixed type of land use, then that factor becomes a very important factor as far as the vulnerability of the vulnerable road users is concerned. So, and then other factors, and then one more thing, that you said is that the more people come on the roads, that is If there are more pedestrians, more vehicles, so there will be more crashes. Of course, that's logical. So, but your study also emphasizes the thing that we are planning, we are making many planning decisions. Like, for example, in the urban planning also, like having mixed land use, wherein the very need of travel is reduced and people can walk up to, or just can paddle, can bicycle up to their desired activity locations where they would want to satisfy some need. So in doing that, we are bringing more pedestrians or more people on the road to walk or to bicycle, and then the vehicle mile, walked or traveled, or vehicle meters, we can say, walked uh, by the uh, by the pedestrians increases, but we don't provide for that. So that's why I had said in the beginning that in the overall planning process, the planning for the VRUs inclusively is very, very important. Otherwise our whole planning process is totally not incomplete. It's not even half, because as you said, 50%, but this of the fatalities or of VRUs, this data is fluctuating from year to year. 2000 it was more than 60, around more than 64%, so around 65%, and then it may again go, since the when we talk about the fatality rates, previously we used to say how many deaths are there per 10,000 vehicles that are there on the roads, but actual, we always present it in terms of the vehicle miles traveled by the motorized transport, if we are talking about the fatalities by vehicle, by the motorized transport. So the more people come on the road, the more bicycles come on the road, and we are actually planning to promote the healthy modes of transportation like pedestrian, like bicycles. So if we are doing that, we have to plan properly for that. So your this brings out even that also on the forefront. Thank you so much, Mehrab. Any other query, or there is any question about that, please? Yes, please.
In the earlier presentation, a gentleman had made a comment in Singapore. People who are beyond a particular age group, they are provided with cards. Excuse me. So if they want to cross the road, they just have to tap this thing, and accordingly, the timing of the pedestrian timing, green time, that also gets extended accordingly. So these sort of facilities, especially in cities like Delhi, we can very well go in for such sort of facilities where, senior citizens, nowadays you have this common mobility card. Okay, some sort of chip can be embedded in that, or some sort of addition can be made in that. So when they're crossing roads or crossing intersections, whether it could be at an intersection or a mid-block, these sort of facilities could really add, not only senior citizens, I'm talking about physically disabled, physically challenged people who are on wheelchairs. They need additional time to cross the road. So this sort of system is very useful.
Okay. Any other questions?
Any comments on that?
So actually, for this, it will extend the discussion. So for this wheelchair thing, one of the researchers from Australia, I guess, had last time came here, and they checked the wheelchair accessibility on all the roads of India, and they found that this is not the fit system for the wheelchairs. Even some professors at IIT Delhi, they themselves sit on the wheelchairs and thought that let's board the bus, but they were not even able to what we call that, on footpaths we provide those ramps. A normal person in a wheelchair is not able to lift himself on that ramp. So for wheelchairs, that's a sort of we can say dur hai abhi. If we are going to provide it only for the normal average person of pedestrian at 1.2 meter per second speed, that will be sort of an achievement for this time period.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mehrab.
Thank you so much.
Singapore is much ahead than most of the countries actually in implementing, whether it is ITS or in the overall transportation planning, because the first thing they did is they developed LTA, Land Transport Academy, and through that LTA, they planned everything, including the location of places, transportation system, and they are what they are right now. In 1965 they were like we are right now. So thank you, Mehrab. for a very good presentation. Let's give him a big hand. So we have now with us Mr. Anuj Bhardwaj, who will be giving a talk on exploring pedestrian dynamics at metro station for effective transportation planning, Jaipur case study. So, Mr. Anuj, please go ahead, please.
Good morning, one and all. My name is Anuj Bhardwaj. I am PhD first year scholar at Shivnadi University, and I'm here to discuss on the topic exploring pedestrian dynamic at metro station for effective transportation planning at a Jaipur metro station. So coming to introduction part, we all know metro has become so much popular among the urban transportation system across our country, and in particular metro stations cater to influx in pedestrian metro users during peak hours. So pedestrian dynamics can help us to study the pedestrian behavior inside the metro stations, and we can use these characteristics to design or design or implement management programs to cater those peak hours facilities. So our objective of our research is first to find out the most affected areas of metro station with increase in pedestrian flow, to study pedestrian dynamics and level of service, to gain valuable insights into user perception using a questionnaire survey that was conducted on the Jaipur metro station. And fourth is to identify, we also include economical activities at several metro stations in internal facilities. So these can also disrupt the pedestrian flow during peak hours. So this was also included in our research. This was a literature review which included about the use of PTV Viswalk software and how the calibration can be done, and all the previous models that have been made, including the emergency situation metro stations or other facilities. Coming to our study areas, our area of focus is Choti Chaupa metro station in Jaipur. Basically, it was started in 2020. Earlier, it was from Mansarovar to the Chandpol metro station, and later, Chandpol is also an underground metro station. After that, underground metro station were constructed like Badi Chaupa, Choti Chaupa, and these are the market areas. So yes, this has improved the ridership in the Jaipur metro service. Coming to methodology, first we had included a video data collection, and a questionnaire survey was also included, which was conducted online. Second, we used this data that we had gathered to analyze the pedestrian speed and flow manually. Third, then we had included these parameters, and using trial and error method, we had altered those default values that are used in Viswalk software according to the Indian pedestrian scenarios that we found out using video surveys. Then modeling part was done. Then these parameters were included, and then the simulations were run. Then average density analysis was included to identify the pedestrian the density change in the metro station. So coming to data collection, so as I told you that video service was conducted during the peak hours, and this was conducted in the month of July. And during peak hours means in the morning 8 to 10 a.m. and 6 to 8 p.m. in the evening. This was done for 3 days, and using these video surveys, we gathered the information about the walking speed, number of pedestrians, and later also online questionnaire survey of 219 respondents were included in the study to identify what are the reasons of discomfort at a metro station and how it can be improved. So this shows the result of the main part of the questionnaire analysis. First, Like one question was asked about what are the areas that do you find most uncomfortable. So highest respondent goes with the ticketing and entry area. And what are the specific aspects contribute to discomfort in selected areas? So overcrowding was one of the reasons. How do you think a metro station could improve to address the discomfort caused by limited space? So most of the people or the metro users had gone with the option of expanding exit entry areas, waiting areas, and also improved crowd management system can improve the situation at the metro stations. Coming to micro simulation part, we had done it using PTB WISPOC, and it is based on social force model. Social force model is basically the uh, social forces are basically that are not directly affecting the pedestrian, the outer environment, but these are in the forces that comes within the pedestrian, the individual that motivates him to uh, do a certain action. So these were the parameters that are included in WISWalk, which affect the pedestrian speed and other characteristics. And this was so for each case, 10 simulations were run, and we had to minimize the root mean square error. And it was done less than 10%. And these were the adopted values that we had adopted related to the Indian pedestrian scenario that we had gathered using video surveys. These are some of the pictures related to simulation part. This left can be seen as the concourse level, and right is the like platform area. Coming to result and discussions. So this table includes the level of service with the change in level of service with the increase in pedestrian flow. Actually, this does not include the what the change in color denotes. So I'll just tell you this is related to the this change in LOS related to average densities taken by NCHRP, which is a US department, and this uh, characterization we used to uh, measure the level of service. So this include no shop, and like there can be many factors that can affect the economical activities or the shops, which where they are included, what are the dimensions, and it can be in many ways. But we have considered just no shop, 1 meter shop, 2 meter and 3 meter shop, and we have identified the best areas that we can include that can help us study the changes in pedestrian flow. So as we can see, the normal pedestrian flow was in a good condition, but as we moved on to more bigger shops that were included in the concourse level, the level of service reduced, and with the also with the change in increase in pedestrian flow, the level of service was seen degrading. These were the results for the ramps that were included on the metro station, and basically there were two entry and two exit for the metro station, and as it is an underground station, so ramps was also considered to identify the level of service. So we can conclude that yes, these simulations can help us plan metro station and other facilities in a proper way, and there can be many other factors that can affect the pedestrian flow or pedestrian characteristics that we can include in such studies, and better calibration can also be included in future studies, like minimizing the error for the simulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Anuj. If we can have one or two quick questions, because we are already lagging behind time actually. So, yes, please.
Very interesting presentation. What I wanted to know from you is that how have you considered those shops? Where have you located those shops? And have you considered only the size of the shop, or suppose you will have people queuing or you'll have people gathering around that shop, and depending upon what is sold at that shop. So have you compared the, or you taken, have you considered the impact of that also in your simulation?
Yes, sir. Like on the concourse level, I have included two shops inside the after the entry of the metro station and one at the side of ticketing counter. So in the software, we have this like we can queue three people, three pedestrian, four pedestrian, up to 10 pedestrian. So I had included three pedestrian waiting at the shop, and then the rest are moving. So that I had included to for the real time scenarios.
Thank you, Mr. Anuj. I think let's give him a big hand. Thanks a lot. Now, I would request Mr. Rohit. Is he here? Do we have Mr. Rohit here? Mr. Rohit is supposed to present his work on identifying accessibility or space through tripling behavior. So is he here? No. Okay. Now I would then invite Mr. Ravi Kant, to come to the dais and present his work, which is on pedestrians' behavioral analysis through critical gap at unsignalized, unmarked mid-block crossings in Delhi. Please go ahead.
Very
we
good
are
morning,
short
everyone.
we are short of time, but I won't stop you. You take your time.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you so much. So, hello everyone. Very good morning. I am Ravi Kant, a research scholar at IIT Roorkee, and basically this is a part of my master's work, which I did with CRI. So, the topic for my presentation is pedestrians' behavioral analysis through critical gap at unsignalized, unmarked mid-block crossing in Delhi. The work is co-authored by Dr. Mukti Advani. So to start with the introduction, like walking is still considered as the universal mode of transportation. At any point of time, we are pedestrians and we need our facilities. However, the facilities for pedestrians is not adequate in many of the cities, many of the Indian cities, where because of that there is a like increase in deaths and accidents. And since walking has several benefits, including health, sustainable in nature, economic benefits, it reduces traffic congestions, it gives sense of happiness, and also it is aligned with the four sustainable development goals. So we need to provide adequate facilities such as sidewalk infrastructure and crossing infrastructure. As you can see from the figure, like based on a report, like 62 deaths occur daily, which is 15% of total road accidents. So coming to the like, since I have said that there are two types of infrastructure, like sidewalk infrastructure and crossing infrastructure. So for this study, we are focusing on the crossing infrastructure, and in that part we have considered the mid-block crossing. So why mid-block? So basically mid-block comes in picture when there are two intersections. In between that, these locations exist. So since sometimes what happens, pedestrians find more waiting times at intersections. So because of that, they try to use locations where they can easily cross. However, they can find some risks or some like the mid block. They don't think like the mid block is whether signalized or unsignalized, whether marked or unmarked, but they simply try to cross by taking some risks. So in that case, we are considering this part. So basically, to cross a road, there is a theory which is called pedestrian gap acceptance theory. It works based on the critical gap. So what is critical gap? Critical gap is basically a minimum gap below which pedestrians will not try to cross the road. So if pedestrians is trying to cross the road, then that pedestrian will be under risk. And these pedestrian like behavioral differences depends on their characteristics such as gender, age group, their group size. So for this study, we are limited to the group size. So considering the need of the study, our like existing literature has not emphasized on estimating the critical gaps in Indian scenario, like especially for like mixed traffic. And then there is need of micro level behavioral analysis through which can be possible through pedestrian gap acceptance to improve the pedestrian safety at unsignalized unmarked mid block. and we need to identify the most suitable critical gap estimation method. Since there are various methods which can estimate the critical gap, but there is need to identify the most suitable for Indian scenario. So for these fill these needs, we have framed two objectives. First objective is to estimate and compare the critical gaps for pedestrians crossing individually and in group. And next one is to explore the perceived risk of crossing pedestrians at unsignalized mid blocks. I think this is the different presentation which I gave today. This is not the presentation which I gave today. Yeah, but there is some modification, so we submitted today. We have given the PPT in early morning.
Have you given him the
Yes,
latest
yes,
PPT?
yes.
You might have saved it somewhere else. Just check, Mr. Yogi. So just since
but I can continue.
we will wait for that. So just on that, so you are focusing on the unmarked mid block crossings,
Yes,
so
yes.
which are basically illegal crossings.
Yes, basically illegal crossings. Basically,
So I don't know whether, because if there is a mid block crossing, it has to be a marked crossing, it has to be a valid crossing.
Yes, yes.
So I don't know whether we should even study this.
Yeah.
I mean, just
Study,
not undermining your work.
yes,
You have
yes.
done a great
Actually,
job.
there is
At
some,
least
slides
daring to
Basically,
do it. But what my point is that wherever the crossing is there in a mid block, it has to be a marked crossing, or it has to be a permitted crossing.
Yes, yes.
I mean,
I will clarify these things in further slides. Basically, that is there is signal installed for crossing, but that signal is not functional at that time. So we wanted to capture these behavioral differences. So there is that was not marked, but there was designated crossing locations. But that time the signal was not working and not functional. So we wanted to capture those behavioral differences.
Okay. It's not there. If you have in the pen drive, you can give them. So is there marked difference between the two presentations?
Yeah, there were some modifications.
You can go ahead with this then, if there are no major modifications.
So this is the study methodology where firstly we identified the gaps through literature. Then based on the study area, we identified the gaps. Then further we framed our study objectives. Then the data collection was done using videographic survey was done. Then the data was extracted through Dartfish software. And then the estimation of critical gaps were done based on the different methods. And further, the critical gaps were compared based on the individual and group sizes of pedestrians for both morning and evening peaks. Then finally, the pedestrian risk analysis was done. So this is basically the study location. So here you can see this is there is maybe in modified slide there was two good pictures where you can see there was signal installed, but that signal was not functional at that time. So we wanted to capture what is the behavioral differences pedestrians are getting. So this location is basically a 6-lane divided national highway, but it works as a urban arterial road. So to collect the data, we used a single camera, and we collected the data for 2 hours for both morning and evening peaks. And also then the video was run in the Dartfish software to extract the vehicular gap sizes. So there is a option in that software to give a line. Firstly what we did, we drawn the horizontal reference line. Then to consider the time t1, when the rear bumper of leading vehicles touches the line, it will be t1, and when the front bumper of the following vehicle will touch the line, then that would be t2. you are doing. Okay, so these were the two pictures where you can see there is a signal installed, but that signal was not functional. So that's why we tried to capture these differences. So then the difference would be T2 minus T1, that will be vehicular gap size. So total of 3,126 vehicular gaps were extracted and involving 635 pedestrians. So these were the data which we collected through the videography. So which includes gender, crossing patterns, perpendicular, angular, then pedestrian behavioral characteristics such as rolling gap, running behavior, then vehicle characteristics, then traffic characteristics. So there are like different methods of critical gaps which exist in literature. So for this study, we have considered 4 methods like RAF method, harders, green shields, and clearing time method. So I will not go into detail, but just I can say here, RAF method used both accepted and rejected gap sizes, whereas green shield also uses accepted, rejected, similar with the harders method also. In case of clearing time, this method uses both accepted gap sizes and clearing time of pedestrians. Like when the pedestrians will start from one side and when it finishes the other end, then this will consider the whole time. So coming to the analysis and results, like based on the analysis, what we found, the estimated critical gap based on green shields, RAPs, and harder methods were relatively low compared to clearing time method. And these critical gaps were very close to 2 seconds, which is like reaction time of drivers. In those conditions, pedestrians will not like even cross the road because that is very close to reaction time of drivers. And what about based on clearing time, these critical gaps were even higher. And like here you can see from those two tables, clearing time value like 5.5, 5.3, 6.1. So these were relatively higher. So based on our findings, what we found, this method was more suitable for finding the critical gap in Indian scenario where lane discipline is not followed and where there is existence of like heterogeneous traffic. And also it considers the zigzag pattern and also clearing behavior of pedestrians. Coming to the risk-taking behavior while crossing. So to explore these risk-taking behavior, first we benchmark, we take a benchmark like cutoff value of 5.3 seconds, which we found based on clearing time. Based on that, we found like 70% of total gap acceptance events were under risk. Like 67% of pedestrians crossed the road under risk because these gaps were under the critical gap. And 15% pedestrians were found to running crossing the road by running, which indicates that the gaps were not adequate and they crossed the road by taking the risks. Whereas 23% pedestrians crossed the road by rolling, like they took multiple vehicular gap sizes in order to cross the road. Coming to the crossing patterns, so 20% pedestrians cross the road at like angular at some angle, and whereas 80% pedestrians cross the road perpendicularly. Now coming to the conclusions, so based on the results and the literature, what we found that clearing time method was found suitable for like Indian scenario where mixed traffic conditions are there and where lane discipline was not being followed. And also there is need to give emphasis on providing well maintained signal with marked crossings. And also the methodology which we have adopted here, like taken 4 methods, then identifying the most suitable method, we can utilize this methodology for other scenario in other cities of India. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ravi. Any query? We are actually into the T session right now. So any query, any question, or any suggestion? So I just wanted to comment that here because your work is on pedestrians crossing the roads, and then finding gaps between vehicles, which is I mean the behavioral part of the humans or the pedestrians has a long bearing on this. It has a long bearing on this. One is, did you consider the age part of the pedestrians, because the critical gap will drastically get influenced by the crossing speeds and by the age, the reaction time and all.
Yes, for this study, we have not considered the age part. For this study, we only consider the group size of pedestrians, how they are behaving when they are moving individually or in group.
Okay.
Maybe in further studies, we will
because
consider
because pedestrians crossing and finding gaps in between is a very, very risky and very critical issue.
Yes.
It's very sensitive. We do talk about, and then we do find the what should be the critical gaps of vehicles crossing a unsynchronized junction, merging with maybe especially at T junctions from you can say a minor road to a major road. But here it's the pedestrians which makes them very vulnerable actually. Going on the streets without any marking or without any signalization, because once the pedestrian is on the road, the pedestrian gets right of way, the traffic has to stop. It is actually that is the thing, that's the rule, that is the safe rule that exists in the world. So thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So we had some interesting presentations here, although one of the speakers did not attend. He was because of some reason not come. So I would have liked if we had some presentation on some work that had been done on motorized two-wheelers, which is so important actually, a very important part of VRUs, which are affecting even the pedestrians, just moving on the pedestrians and using the infrastructure for the pedestrians. So, but anyway, I mean, it was a very interactive session. I think it was a very interesting session, and there are definitely many takeaways from this session. So, I would congratulate all the speakers of this session, and thank you all for attending this session and being a part of this very interactive session. Thank you so much.
Just
So
a
we
moment,
can leave for
sir. Just a moment. To conclude this event, I would like to present a special moment to our esteemed chairperson, Professor Mir, on behalf of UMI, for his presence and invaluable guidance in today's conference.